Eagles. Eagles.
And welcome in, everybody, to a Wednesday morning edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, John McMullen. J-Mac, how you doing on this Wednesday morning, my friend? Fresh off the weekend of the NFL draft. Still feels fresh in my mind.
Surviving, like I said, like the Philadelphia 76ers, surviving for another day.
Yeah. That's good, John. We have some news in Eagle Land that we're going to get to. Something that you've talked about, but I don't know. Did we talk about this one? I know we talked about Bryce Johnston. We talked about some of the other key departures that would happen in the front office. But yesterday, Alec Hallaby, John, decided to step away from the Eagles organization to, I guess, pursue other professional endeavors for him. He's been with the football team for 17 years, J-Mac. That's a long time. What do you make of what's going on in the Eagles front office right now as the latest news post-NFL draft?
Yeah, a little bit surprising that one hit me. One, because I probably, talked to Alex more than anybody else, Alec, over the past 5 years or so, 4 years. Loves it. And the wording of it. It's because I think of Jake Rosenberg, and he went on to a different endeavor and founded sort of, this group that was at the cutting edge of what's going on in college football and turning it to a pro level background. So, and he was more of a finance guy to begin with, whereas Alec loves the personnel part of it. So I can't imagine he wants to walk away from the NFL. But, he's had 4 GM interviews over the past couple of years, and he hasn't gotten it. He's, there's this, the NFL is far more open-minded than it used to be, I would say. When it comes to non-traditional paths, like for years, it was, you got to be a football guy to run, and part of that is Howie Roseman. I mean, Howie came under and did we lose Zander? Looks like we lost Zander. So he's back.
My bad. But, I hit back by accident. My bad.
All right. But as I was saying, Howie is the perfect example, non-traditional background,
right.
Best GM in the NFL. You would think more people are open-minded, and they are. And he's gotten a lot of interviews, and but I would say most teams still lean towards traditional pass and personnel guys. It's easy. You can look. And those are the guys who are still getting jobs. So I think there's a little bit of frustration from that point. And then the second point is there's a ceiling in Philadelphia, and everybody knows it because, again, he's not going anywhere. And the one guy we said, hey, well, if Jeffries steps aside and Julian takes over, Alec Hallaby's very close to Julian. People say maybe that's the crux of going in a different direction. Well, Jeffrey has publicly stated no signs that he's leaving. So you have this ceiling. The GM's entrenched here, so you can't go above assistant GM.
Yeah,
maybe he just
being next to Howie for as long a time as possible would set you up, pretty well. I guess you got to be patient, but.
Yeah, you got to be very patient. And generally, all these people have tremendous ambition, and
right, which makes sense.
And if you're stuck in one place, it seems stagnant. And he's been here for 17 years, and it's like, well, let me go prove, I can be at the secondary level with another team and turn that around, and maybe that gets him over the hump. That's all I can think of. Now, if he goes in a different direction, obviously he's a Harvard guy, so he's very intelligent. He's very smart. Can probably go in a number of different directions. But I just talked to him enough to know he loves personnel. And the third thing I should bring in, because he started as an analytics guy, as a non-traditional, and you'll still hear it today. He's the analytics guy. He hasn't been the analytics guy in a decade. He's involved in every single aspect of the football operations. He's number 2 to Howie. So you're talking about roster building, resource allocation. That's where he started, but he loves, just like Howie, he loves personnel. That's his favorite thing. And he's good at it. But sometimes you got to go somewhere else to prove it.
Yeah, well, maybe that's the case. John, how much of an effect will it have on the Eagles? I think that's what people are focused on is will this affect? And we've seen a lot of people leave Howie's front office. John, I've become a little more numb to it over the years because I won't lie, there's been times where I thought you lose Jake Rosenberg, you lose all the two guys to the Raiders, Anthony Patch, and a couple other. You lose guys this year. There was times where
Falcons' whole front office is now Eagles.
Right. But I thought to myself, boy, is Howie I wonder if Howie loses his step here because, just like the team game of football, having a great front office doesn't just come down to one person as great as Howie is. It's having a great team. And I did wonder if it would affect the Eagles front office, but it doesn't seem to have up to this point. And everybody who leaves doesn't seem to be doing as good as Howie's doing here in Philly. So Howie might really be the head of the snake, which I think he obviously is. But will it impact him, John, all these losses consistently happening each year?
Well, I mean, you would think, they have, as they say, they build a deep bench specifically for this because they know they're going to lose people. And they knew they were going to lose people this go round. Jeff Scotty let leave before the draft because he's more of a pro personnel guy. And his work was sort of done. So we allowed him to go to Atlanta, where he's now the assistant GM. So as you mentioned, you have Bryce Johnston leaving. But I mean they have Adam Berry. They have James Gilman, who was actually probably a name people don't know, but he's the actual analytics guy that people think Alec Hallaby was.
Is Julian still leading the analytics department?
He's a big part, but he's got a much bigger role as well. He's, Jeffrey's trying to teach him the whole thing. So,
right.
But
I just remember in 2021 when they were interviewing Nick Sirianni, and he was kind of in charge of the analytics side of questions for the candidates. At least that's what Jeff McLean wrote.
Well, that's one of his interests, so he's very involved. But he's got to learn like everything. So,
is this like a passion interest for Jeffrey Lurie's son? Is it?
You want to say, like how he started out as a cap guy? I mean. Everybody's got an expertise, and I would say that just like Alec, his expertise would be analytics. That's how he got his foot in the door. But his role has grown to be enormous. Again, the whole scope of football operations. So you can't just sit all day with James Gilman, is what I'm saying.
Right.
The day-to-day guy's James Gilman. But Julian, again, he's got to be the owner. So he's got to learn the business side as well. Forget about the football side. So he's all-encompassing, but that is certainly an interest of his. And then on the scouting side, you have guys like Charles Walls and Alan Wolking, and they'll be next in line. You already have Joe Douglas here. He could be back to assistant GM. They might change his title from senior personnel director or whatever it is. So, but really the titles don't matter. It's about, they have Matt Russell, who's run personnel departments before in Denver and such. So they have a bunch of people. Phil Baya, it's a Haddonfield guy, good dude. He's sort of a fast riser in the organization. So they have a very deep bench for this because they know they're going to lose guys. And I should mention Ben Iolana, former player, is leaving as well. He's a scout. He's been the Northeast scout. So that's just a natural turnover you have there. But so you're going to be hearing a lot of names that have been on the fast track. I would, if I were to predict, Adam Berry's going to get a promotion. Alan Wolking, probably Chuck Walls. Those guys are definitely getting promotions. And they might bring in a name or two from outside the organization as well. They really, when they elevated Alec and John Ferrari, who's the other assistant GM, and he's still here, I should mention him as well. They lost like 4 people, like bang, 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 bang. That's when Ian Cunningham left. That's when Brandon Brown left. And then Catherine Raish left, who's now Catherine Hickman.
Yep.
And then I forget the fourth, but there was 4 bang, 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 bang pretty much, and they had to sort of repopulate, and that's when guys like Chuck Walls came in and Brandon Hunt. Brandon Hunt's already gone to Las Vegas. So it's not abnormal, but you never like to lose good people, but it's just the reality of the situation. And, the unintended consequence of having a GM with the cachet of Howie Roseman is everybody in the building knows there's a ceiling, and they're a bunch of ambitious people.
No, you're damn right. There's a ceiling. Howie should be going nowhere. I got respect for all you guys under him, but none of you are coming for Howie's job. Howie's operating at a high level.
Well, but they know that, and
Yeah.
so they're looking for different paths to get to their career goals.
Right. I wonder what Hallaby will do. We'll see. I mean, Jake Rosenberg kind of went the route of like consulting, right? Where he's consulting with like college kids or college. I forget exactly what he's doing, but
no, he founded a good. Oklahoma was the first, college program that hired a GM to run the program in the world of NIL, or at least the first major sort of college to do it. And Jake founded what's called the Athlete Group, and yeah, they consult, but they also place people in like colleges at that position to handle all the NIL stuff and the transfer portal stuff and all that stuff that has turned college into the wild, wild west. So he was on the ground floor of that. So they're in other words, they're teaching college programs how to do roster management, how to do the finances, how to do it all. And he's evidently been very successful. He's got Oklahoma, he's got Florida State, he's got Stanford, Florida, Penn State, he's helped SC, Michigan State. So, not as forward facing. I'm sure he wanted to be a GM, but again, for Jake, it would have been difficult because they don't give finance guys GMs either. It's like 90% of the time they're hiring personnel people. Still a little bit more open-minded. You would think they would change because of the success of Howie, but
I think Howie's a rare breed, honestly. And I think people know that.
Well, I think he proved that you can do it with a non-traditional background, and not too many people are accepting of that thought.
Well done for Howie Roseman. We will see how he manages the changeover in the Eagles front office. Going to be interesting, John. When it comes to the football field, what's next for this team? Did you figure out when these dudes are reporting for rookie camp? Is it Friday? Is it Saturday? What do you got, J-Mac?
Yeah, well, I don't have a schedule now, but they're going to have most likely open to the media on Friday, maybe some interviews on Thursday. We'll see how that shakes out. But yeah, it's this weekend. But no, obviously with the Eagles, I don't have a schedule for you.
No, yeah, never a schedule with the Philadelphia Eagles. They'll do that last second, J-Mac. We will see what that looks like when it comes in here this weekend. I'm excited to see, what the rookies do when they first get on the field. You don't see very much though, right? I mean, what do they?
No, it's like a regular season practice. So we basically see their numbers, and that's about it. Some individuals.
Well, at least you can still get to see the rookies hit the field.
Yeah. I wish it was open. I don't see why it can't be open, but take that up with the NFL. Once you get to OTAs, they have to open up one practice in the cluster. So if you have the cluster of 3, you have to open it up. Mandatory minicamp, you have to open up. So that's when you get to see, but the rookie camp, and you'll get to see the tryout players. They'll have a bunch of tryout players in as well. So that's the interesting part of rookie camp, but it's real quick.
Yep, goes quick. We will see. And then what's next after rookie camp, John? Normally it ramps up pretty quick, and then they have like a break again. What would be next after rookie camp? But do they do anything in May as well?
Yeah, late May OTAs start.
Late May OTAs.
Yeah. And that's out. I don't have the dates, but I can look them up. So yeah, that'll happen. And that's phase 3 of the 9-week off-season program. That's the final phase. So let's see. May 26th, 27th is the first little cluster of OTAs. Then May 29th, June 1st and June 1st, 2nd, and 4th. And then minicamp June 9th and 10th. So talking May 26th will be the first on-field OTA, and the last practice of the spring will be June 10th at mandatory minicamp.
All right, good stuff, Johnny Mac. John, we're going to have Mike Gill and BLG today. I'm looking forward to talking to both of those guys. We had 2 great guests yesterday. We'll have 2 great guests today to recap the 17 added players this weekend for the Philadelphia Eagles, 8 of them being undrafted free agents, 1 of them being via trade for Jonathan Greenard, and then 8 new draft picks as well for the Birds. All in all, what I thought was a pretty good haul for this team. And obviously we got great breakdowns yesterday of that draft class from Ian and Rick Saratello. So that was good. I'm curious to see what Mike thinks and what BLG thinks of what they accomplished this past weekend in the NFL draft.
Yeah, I think everybody's hyped up over the skill position players, but I would, be cautious. I don't expect a lot of immediate impact for this class as a whole. Pretty much just Mackay and maybe Cole Wisniewski, crazily enough, if they can't bring in a veteran safety. But I do think ultimately they'll bring in a veteran safety, so that'll probably scrap that as well. So I do think, other than Mackay Lemon, probably not going to be as impactful immediately. I think people should prepare themselves for that. So doesn't mean it's a bust when guys are not playing. I think it's evident with Markel Bell. I think people understand that. But somebody like Eli Stowers, I think, is going to, if he's not out there, people are going to say, what's wrong? What's wrong? Cole Payton, obviously, is not going to play. Micah Morris is not going to play. And then you have Uar Bernard, is like a 3-year project.
I think at least a 3-year project. I was looking at the tape of him running. I'm like, yeah, you could tell he didn't grow up playing football.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a long-term process. And Keyshawn James Newby's got a difficult, hurdle just to make the team. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of immediate impact from this class, but, I wouldn't jump off the wall at Whitman if you're expecting that.
How big of an impact do you think Mackay Lemon makes? I think that's the one obvious. I mean, he's the first rounder. That's the one you want to have the immediate impact. How big, what do you think the upside is this year on a Mackay Lemon impact on a team where I'm envisioning A.J. Brown is gone, Johnny Mac? I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all at that point where we can stop being children.
I miss my guy Dabney, John. He stopped showing up in the chat. He kept telling me, AJ, "Well, Dabney, where are you? I know you're listening. You can check in. It's all right. We're all wrong here and there."
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing there. Nobody's lying. Yeah, that's all. That's the only thing you're wrong about. But as far as I mean, they'll want him to be on the field as quickly as possible. To me, it'll come down to wide receiver 2 and wide receiver 3. How quickly he can pick it up. Will Dontavian Wicks remember? Dontavian Wicks knows the offense. He knows the offense better than anybody. So I do think early in the season, Wicks will probably play more. But, if Lemon's a natural and picks it up, obviously the goal is for him to play more. And then the worst side would be if he's the wide receiver 4 because he's not picking up things early and Hollywood Brown is the 3. You don't want that. But it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if he needs a little time. By the second half of the season.
I don't think that would be a very good sign.
Well, by the second half of the season, I think is the key. Then you want him to be, by that point, you want him to be the wide receiver too at that point. So
I think immediately wide receiver 2.
well,
Now I might be wrong.
Everybody wants immediate, but I'm
Yeah,
saying if it doesn't remember, that's why I bring up what Wicks is ahead of DeMonte from understanding of this particular offense. He's the guy who worked with Sean Mannion. Specifically, Sean is supposed to run the same Matt LaFleur style of offense. So Wicks has a big advantage early on from guys who were supposedly learning a new style and new terminology, new system, all that kind of stuff. So wouldn't surprise me at all if he gets more snaps week 1 than Mekhi Lemon. I don't think that's a bad sign at all. As I said, but you want him on the field immediately, and that's the hope, and that'll be the goal.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I'm excited to see what kind of impact Mekhi Lemon can have. John, do you feel like you're never going to replace a player like A.J. Brown, obviously, in one offseason? I mean, you can't replace him at some point in the future or if they make a big move, but, it was never going to happen this year. Do you think they've done a good enough job at least addressing the hole that would be there without A.J. Brown, with Stowers, with Lemon, with Wicks, with Hollywood Brown? It feels like like you said, they brought in the collective approach. Do you think they've done a good enough job with that, given the circumstances?
Yeah, they moneyballed it. They did it in the aggregate, because you can't replace that kind of talent. So, when really the replacement on the field is going to be DeVonta Smith, which nobody talks about. And I think you're fine there. So then it becomes, again, similar to what we talked about with the edge, guys playing above where they should be in the rotation. Was Wicks a clear number 2? I would say no. Certainly not DeVonta Smith level. And even if Mekhi Lemon, he's not DeVonta Smith.
No, not yet. That's for sure.
So, and then down and down, Jahan Dotson 3, you're probably fine there because you weren't that good to begin with. And then you probably got better at 4 and 5 because last year it was Darius Cooper and people like that. So, and Johnny Wilson, even if he was healthy and he wasn't, and all of a sudden you got more proven guys in Hollywood Brown. And you still have those guys coming up. There's nothing that says that Darius Cooper can't improve or Johnny Wilson can't come back healthy. So you look like you have a deeper group. But at the top, you're certainly not as good as you were with A.J. Brown.
Yep, no doubt. That's for sure. We got a couple super chats we'll get to, and then we got Mike Gill, who said he'll be with us just a couple minutes late today. That's all good. Here's Purpose Isn't Passing. John, did you pick up on the meaning of that name? Purpose Isn't Passing. We got a Jalenite who has declared his name. Purpose Isn't Passing. I love it. Big Z and Johnny Logic. I love that nickname for you. Good morning. I watched the full Stoutland interview last night. Great coach. Thoughts on impact we will see this year without him?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, but if he doesn't want to run the scheme they want to run, there's 2 ways to look at it. Is Chris Cooper going to be a better position coach than Jeff Stoutland? No. That's one of the great assistant coaches really of all time. Is he going to be better for what they're doing this year? Probably, because Jeff didn't want to do it. That's why he's not here. So it depends how you want to frame it. If they kept going and if they didn't presume that everybody caught up to them and they had to shift and they had to change, yeah, I'd say bring Stout back.
See, to me, it's more about those young players and the player development. I'm not worried about Mailata and Lane.
Well, yeah, and that's the second part. I mean, it's a mixed bag with Cooper. with development. Some good, Darrisol, Donovan Jackson, some bad. Bradbury, Ed Ingram, yada yada. It's a mixed bag. So, the talented guys, the first round picks are fine. The lesser guys were not fine. And you got a lot of lesser guys. You got to get Cameron Williams or Miles Hinton or Drew Kendall, Willie Lampkin, Holland Pierce. Now you have Micah Morris and Markel Bell. A lot of young guys who aren't top tier number one picks that you don't have to develop them all, but some of them you got to develop.
Right.
And Stoutland would get the most of them for the most part, most out of them. So yeah, from a developmental standpoint, I don't think there's any question Stoutland would be better. But again, if you're not developing in the scheme that you're running, is it that good? So
exactly. All right, good answer there by Johnny Logic. I love that nickname. Devin says, "Let's go Sixers. Hopefully, Fly Guys get it done tonight." Devin's all flyered up. He's all jacked up on the Sixers. Devin is holding out hope on all the Philly team. I tell you what, Devin, the Flyers better be careful, man. You don't want to let that veteran Penguin team win another one. That would be a dangerous situation to go back to Pittsburgh for Game 7. Chris Scott says, J-Mac, if Vrabel resigns, would AJ still want to go there? I don't see why not.
Yeah, well, I don't think he's wants to leave because of Mike Vrabel.
Yeah, I think and by the way, they're trading for him because of Drake May, not because of Mike Vrabel, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, that's just, they had a good relationship in Tennessee. That's just like a fringe benefit, but and I don't think he's going to resign, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Chris, thank you, brother. We appreciate all you guys for being here today. Hit that like button. All right, a good NFL draft weekend. We got Mike Gill, who's set to join us right now to talk about it all. He joins us here on Birds 365. You can follow him at Mike Gill Show. Listen to his show on 97.3 ESPN Down the Shore. Subscribe on his YouTube channel. Follow him on X and all the platforms. Mike, welcome to the program this Wednesday morning. How you doing today, my friend?
Doing all right, gentlemen. How are you?
Yeah, we're all, the Phillies fire the manager, the Sixers saved their season. The
Johnny
Flyers,
Mac got bumped from my show yesterday.
Yeah, I got bumped.
Whoa.
I got
that
bumped.
That is not what I expected to hear this morning. J-Mac
I'm like Matt Damon on the Jimmy Kimmel show. That was for anybody who watched that.
What happened? The Rob Thompson news broke. Mike, you had to bring in a Phillies guy.
We had we got an avalanche of people who we just had a ton of people getting involved on the conversation, and then Rob Thompson spoke, and we had a couple things there. We had Dombrowski speaking, so our show just got untenable.
Yeah, it's understandable. He's a slightly bigger name, so I deferred. I didn't raise a fit by any stretch of the imagination. So, but yeah, it's one of the rare times that the Eagles take a back seat. But even when they take a back seat, Mike, there's still Alec Halby gets up and leaves. There's always something going on with this team.
Yeah.
They've lost 3 high-profile executives, and Howie knew he was going to lose some. I think Alec was the biggest surprise because he didn't leave with a new job in hand. The other guys had the new jobs. They've done it before, but at some point, does the churn hurt you?
It's exactly what I questioned yesterday, because we did do football at 4, so we had a slight little football segment, and we asked that question is, they keep getting poached, and they keep getting poached, and they keep getting poached, and they just keep on going. At what point, though, do you run out of lieutenants in there to keep helping you out, to be your right-hand man and be the next guy up, or girl? They've had girls poached in the past, too. So we'll see. Obviously, he's been doing this a long time. How much is he solely hands-on, and how much do these people legitimately give him, are the reason why he has been so successful? so far it seems that it doesn't matter who they take. He's still done a good job. In fact, many people think that this draft here, that again he lapped the field in that. Now these guys were all here; they've left afterwards, but so we shall see moving forward here. It eventually you would think would catch up because in the coaching circles, we see these coaches struggle when you start to poach their assistants from them. You wonder why it hasn't happened in the front office.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how much of an impact it makes. Mike, speaking of something the front office just accomplished, they just got done the NFL draft. They drafted 8 players. They signed 8 undrafted free agents, or at least that's how it's reported right now. And they also made the big trade for Jonathan Grenard. Mike, just your big picture takeaway on what the Eagles were able to do in the NFL draft this weekend.
Well, I'm a big fan of Mekhi Lemon. Love that pick. I think he's exactly what the Eagles have lacked, even in their successful years. Like they've always had AJ and Devontae who could go downfield and make plays and bail you out. One thing they have lacked, really going back to, I guess, the year Aguilar had in 2017, is a slot guy that can make plays in the middle of the field, reverse field pivot, just catch the ball in the middle of the field. Now, Aguilar didn't have the best hands in the world. I would think that Lemon would be your Puka Nacua, your Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, the guy who catches just everything and does it in the middle of the field, short route, intermediate. He can catch the ball down the field. He's just a football player. He's not John Ross fast. John Ross gets picked number 9 because he has 4.2 speed, but he can't play. This guy doesn't run 4.2, but he can play. And I think it's exactly what this team has liked. I kept saying over there, they just never have a real slot guy. So love that pick. As much as I like that pick, I might like Eli Stowers even more. Tremendous. I mean, what he's going to bring to them is going to be very interesting to see how they use him in this first year.
You got the Vandy shirt on too, Mike.
I do have the Vandy shirt, not for Eli, but I did visit the campus, and I just think he's a great fit for what Mannion wants to do, and very interested. In fact, I definitely am interested to see how much him and Goddard work in tandem this year. You remember Tucker Kraft and what he brought to Green Bay, and then what their offense looked like without him in the offense last year. So I think the tight end going to be a huge spot here. And then they get Bell. One question we asked, I don't know if you guys have brought it up this week, is did they look at him at guard, or is that a Stoutland thing? They did put Mekhi Becton in there at right guard, and that was something that worked out great for them. Bell is every much as big as Becton is. Can you look at him at right guard and see if he can play in the interior? He's only played really left tackle. 6'9", 350 pounds. That's a massive human being. Can you imagine him playing next to Jordan Mailata? I know Landon Dickerson's there, so that's probably not going to happen.
Jalen Hurts better get a step ladder.
Exactly. Especially if you're going to throw the ball in the middle of the field more.
Yeah, right.
And then obviously the quarterback is more of a Taysom Hill type of player. I think that's going to be very interesting to see if you're going to use him as like an H-back or have him kind of incorporate it. He was a 5th-round pick. You don't normally get rid of those guys, so they must have had some sort of reason why they targeted that. Uar Bernard, I think we're all kind of just wondering, what can this guy really do with the freakish measurables that he brought to the table? They hit on Mailata. Can they do it again? That would be unbelievable. So I think they definitely had, and then the Grenard trade obviously is really the finishing touch other than safety. I know they drafted a safety, Wisniewski, but getting Grenard now really gives them a legitimate pass rusher. And if they can find that safety, you might have an argument that this defense is more talented or better than last year's defense. Is that crazy to say?
No, I don't think it's crazy to say.
No, I don't think it's crazy. I think you're more athletic with Grenard and Jod Campbell.
I think you upgraded Adoree Jackson. I think if you also project in that players get better
and Reek Woolen, athleticism too. You're way more athletic, so obviously, quicker, faster. Now, N'Kobe had the instincts. Jalen Phillips, great all-around player. You still need the safety, but yeah, I think the potential is there for the defense to be even better than it was last year.
Yeah.
Now, I'm glad you guys brought up Grenard and also throw in Dontavian Wicks because they're part of this draft as well, and they're going to be contributors, day one contributors. In the case of Grenard, he's going to be, I think, one of the stars of the defense. Then you have Mekhi Lemon. But I do want, on your first two picks, a little bit of pushback, Mike. I'm like,
Yeah, sure.
all right, Mekhi Lemon, I agree. I love the player, but to catch everything, you got to throw the ball to him. They don't throw the ball over the middle. Does that change? Number one. And Eli Stowers, I don't get the fit for Sean Mannion. I think if you look at the Shanahan tight ends, the McVay tight ends, it's George Kittle. You mentioned Tucker Kraft. Tucker Kraft is a monster.
Yeah,
He's
they're big dudes.
260 pounds. And I think everybody looks at the passing game. And look, Eli Stowers, tremendous athlete. 40, he's got an NBA vertical. But I mean, he doesn't block.
Yeah.
And you got to set the edge for that wide zone, that stretch running game. So how much?
That's why I said I like him, the player. I'm not as sure how they fit him in, but I certainly like the talent that he brings. Lemon.
Oh, yeah, talent-wise, yeah.
Yeah, Lemon, I think, is a great fit for what this team has lacked, even in this offense, that offense, all the offense. They just have never used a guy like a true slot. The fact that he's a true slot, well, he lined up in the slot about 65% of the time in college. So he can do both. Where Aguilar really struggled was he was good in the slot. Then you moved him to the outside. He couldn't track the ball. He had problems on the outside. I feel like Lemon could serve both, but more so in the slot.
Do you guys think they move more people around this year? Like with A.J. Brown, they never really lined him up anywhere else. I've always thought they could move Devontae around a little bit more than they did. Now you have Lemon, Smitty. You have a little bit more versatility in that receiving group. You guys think they could, Johnny Mack, I'll ask you too. You guys think they could move some of those guys around, try and keep defenses on their toes with different looks like some of these other teams do?
I would think so. I mean, if you watch a lot of where Puka Nacua, he's lined up all over the place. You see Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, I know they don't run a similar style of players. You've got the Green Bay guys, constant, they're not lined up in the same spot. I mean, they're San Francisco. Now, Debo's a weird player when he was there because he's kind of not a true wide receiver, but they moved him and lined him up all over the field. So, yeah, I would think you're going to see a lot more flipping to the field, changing. But ultimately, you have a true slot receiver for the first time in quite a while here.
Well, I'll say this: they used Devontae Smith a shitload in the slot last year, and they
might have lined him up there, but I don't know that they ever threw him the ball from there.
Well, they don't throw the ball. That's my concern. Like,
yeah,
with all due respect to Mekhi Lemon, he's not Devontae Smith. And in fact, I'll try to look it up while I'm talking, but yeah, that's my concern. They just don't. The quarterback's not comfortable throwing over the middle of the field. Now, is that his fault, or is it Nick Sirianni banging in the risk-averse philosophy into his head? I'm sure that's had an impact on him. That's sort of what Boston Scott alluded to with his tweets yesterday. Devontae Smith was in the slot 507 times last year. He was out wide 434. So to me, it's not a matter of just where a guy lines up. I mean, you got to utilize it. Like, to be Amon-Ra St. Brown, you got to give him the traffic. To be a Puka Nacua, you got to give him the traffic. Certainly not going to get that early in his career. Hopefully he can develop into that kind of ceiling. But Devontae Smith is that guy. And that's my one concern. A little bit of a redundancy. Can Mekhi Lemon play outside? Now, the best example of Justin Jefferson is, he played at LSU and he's a slot guy because he played in the slot at LSU. Well, they had Jamar Chase, they had Terrace Marshall. and came to the
Can
pros.
you imagine saying that now? Yeah, they had Terrace Marshall.
Well, he was a great college player.
I know. I'm just saying, thinking about that now, Terrace Marshall
Yeah.
obviously can't get a job now,
Yeah.
but Justin Jefferson couldn't surpass him at the collegiate
Well,
level.
he surpassed him. It was just that Marshall's 6'3". He's not going in the slot. Like Jefferson was far more productive. Like he got the ball more. He played in the slot because he could do it, but he could also play outside. That's my point. We have to see, can Mekhi Lemon play outside, or is he strictly a slot player? Maybe he can, just because you mentioned the heavy slot numbers at USC. Well, they had Jacoby Lane. They had other receivers as well. Maybe he's the best fit because he's the best route runner. Maybe he can do both, and that would help the Eagles.
Yeah, and that's where we don't really know a lot of what this is going to what's going to happen here with Mannion's thoughts and what he likes to do, coupled with Hurts's deficiencies and what we've seen from him in the past. How do they marry those together? That is going to be really the question, I'm sure, of training camp.
That's the $1 million question, Mike. I mean, that's what it is right there. You just surmised it.
Yep. And I don't know. We've heard about Jalen being adverse to, certain stuff. Is he going to be open to this? I mean, is he going to be fighting back against it? Are you going to see this butting of heads, because they have clearly set this offense up to him and said, we are throwing the ball over the middle of the field, whether you like it or not. And he's going to have to, he's going to have to evolve into that passer.
How much changes from a defensive standpoint against the Eagles? I mean, you see video, I saw people on, the people on social media, the army of Hurts defenders, which is fine, but there's an army out there, they put up the clips of, and quote, Jalen can't throw over the middle. And then there's like a montage of him throwing the ball over the middle. Obviously, different circumstances, you get different defenses and things of that nature.
I like scouting.
I think Hurts can do it. The question to me is, can he do it consistently? But how much changes, like defensively, John and Mike, when you're doing that more as compared to when your primary's outside the numbers and you might toss in the middle of the field every once in a while when somebody's wide open. But if that's like your area of attack, defenses, I would presume, would change the way they play you. That's where I think the challenge will come.
Right, and I guess the question is, what is the ceiling in year one of learning that and feeling comfortable with that? Do you get comfortable by the 9th week? Do you get comfortable by the 4th week? Do you get comfortable by 14th week? How advanced can you get when you're trepidatious in learning that right off the bat? It's not like something that I would imagine he's probably a little bit like, okay, I'm going to have to do this. Now, I'm not thrilled about it. Maybe he is. I don't know. It doesn't seem that he is, based on a lot of the reporting, is that, it's not something that he likes to do all that much. Maybe he's overly excited about learning or adding another wrinkle to his offense. But if that's not the case and he has to kind of like get comfortable with this, how long into this season does he feel comfortable enough that this offense can take off?
Yeah, it's certainly going to be the story, how Jalen Hurts sort of evolves in this new style of offense, or if it goes back to a Kellen Moore mindset and scaling it back after trying it. And that's going to be the whole story of the season. Just because Zander and I were talking about it, just to wrap things up on Lemon, would you be, and I brought up Dontavian Wicks from the perspective of, all right, you're changing offensive scheme. He's ahead of everybody when it comes to learning Sean Mannion's terminology and the system as a whole. To me, it wouldn't upset me at all if Dontavian Wicks is the wide receiver 2 week 1 and Mekhi Lemon's the 3rd. But by midway through the season or so, then I think it would be upsetting. Do you need Mekhi Lemon on the field week 1, no matter what, as the wide receiver 2?
I would think he'd be out there regardless, though. No, I mean, you don't think?
You're hoping he could beat out Hollywood Brown at the bare minimum.
Yeah, that would be disappointing if I think it. No, I think in fact I'm kind of entering the year thinking that well, I guess I don't know. Is it fair to say in our minds the slot guy is generally quote unquote the third guy, even though it might not
Well,
be?
they are, because sometimes in 12 there's only 2 receivers on the field, and they're
Like if you go back to the 17 team, it's really the last time they utilized that slot position, like pretty with a high volume. You would say that Aguilar had a higher volume than Torrey Smith did.
oh yeah,
Right? Because Smith, while he was an outside receiver and maybe the quote unquote second guy, he was really the take the top off.
well, a lot of slot guys like Amon, you name the biggest 2, Puka and Amon. Now they play outside as well. You got to be on the field. You got to play both. But the majority of their time is certainly with Brown is inside, and he's the heavy traffic guy. So
and by the way, keep in mind, all USC guys and Lemon worked out all summer long with Brown. So a lot of the same type of tendencies and things that they are going to do are going to mirror each other a lot.
Yeah. How about this? How about if Devontae Smith and Mekhi Lemon are your 2 top receivers and Eli Stowers is your slot receiver? Is that the perfect scenario?
I actually thought, I was actually thinking almost the other way. Would they play Stowers some in the slot, but even split him out wide a little bit and give you that bigger?
He's actually got the speed to do it.
Right. A bigger kind of AJ Brown physical kind of guy. Amon's not the biggest guy in the world either. I mean, Lemon 5'11". I think Amon's no more than 6 foot. Puka's the biggest. I think Puka appears to be the smallest guy of that group. He's actually the biggest guy of that group.
Oh, he's a big.
But I mean, but I think when you see Puka, because he's always kind of compact, he's catching the ball, he keeps himself low, he doesn't like to he's spinning around, and you think of him as more of like an Edelman size type of guy. But Edelman would be more in the Lemon role. But Amon's not a big. He's only like 6'2" or 6 foot as well. And so, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they kept Lemon there and maybe split Sowers out a little bit and kind of gave you that look. But I will say this. There's one thing for certain. They have more options than they've had in a long time. Oh, because we're not even talking about, say, Hollywood Brown and seeing him. Wicks's name, we're really kind of just glancing over here. Where before, it was Brown and it was Smith, and that's all you had in that past game at wide receiver.
By the way, I was reading the Bill Walsh thing about it. Nobody gives a shit where somebody gets drafted the minute they're drafted. In other words, in an NFL building, it's like, the minute you get in the building, you're judged on how you are as a player. Puka's a great example. That dude was a 5th round pick.
Amon-Ra, 4th round.
And why? Because they can't run.
Yeah.
Puka ran a 4. I had to look at that. He ran a 4.57. Can't run because he's 6'2".
By the way, you know how fast 4.57 is?
Oh, I know. Well, bro, we're talking.
I love it. It's like one guy runs a 4.2 and he can fly, and the other guy runs a 4.5 and he can't.
Well,
run.
there is a big difference between 4.2 and 4.5. I mean, I'm not trying to downplay that, but if you're 4.2 and you can't catch, you can't run routes, and if you're 4.57 like Puka, and you can run every route in the book, and you can play, and you're big and you're physical, he's got to, stop the drinking. But other than that, I mean, how do you miss on that guy after watching him play? Well, and as a rookie, by the way, as a 5th round rookie, he had 105 receptions for 1,486 yards.
Cooper Kupp, another guy. I mean, these guys who and that's where Lemon fits into the category of just football player. I mean, just knows the game, runs the route. 101 targets, 1 drop last year. The guy just loves the play, and realistically, if you go back and look at his where he lines up, 63% in the slot, 38% on the outside. His short catches, everything. Intermediate, the deep ball. He's a 3-level player. Most of his damage is done short and intermediate, but that doesn't mean he hasn't been able to go out and do other things. So just a football player. And if he has 4.2 speed like John Ross does, he's probably picked in the top 5. And by the way, the fact that he got to where he was,
guys. By
John,
the way,
how much of where he ended up getting drafted is because there were some reports that he just completely blew a lot of his interviews, and that people just were like, this guy's a kind of out there. Which my buddy suggests that he didn't want to get. He was smart. This guy was so smart that he didn't want to get drafted by one of those bad teams, so he purposely blew his.
I don't know. I think he's an SC guy, so I'm sure he was hoping the Rams would take him, number one. But at 13, and that was where everybody. I think you forget. You see, well, that looks like a perfect fit for the Rams. And it was almost, there was a bunch of consensus picks, like him to the Rams was a consensus pick pretty much, like 80% of the mock drafts, just because it made so much sense. And then when you don't go there, then, some teams in between 13 and 20, they don't want receivers. They're looking at other positions. And
do you think the Eagles tried to get Freeling at 19 and the Panthers said, we know you want Freeling, we're not making that deal?
Well, I do think what number one would have been Caden Proctor. I know that. I know that. But he went way early. And I do believe Freeling was the second guy, but I haven't gotten that locked down to this point.
We had on Thursday, Sal had been on with us and said the Eagles had called the Jets and the Bucks 15 and 16, and that those 2 picks everybody knew were for sale. So everybody trying to get up to 15 and 16, are they trying to get there to get Freeling, or are they trying to get up there to get Lemon?
Yeah, I like I said, my guess would be Freeling, and Lemon would have been the second guy. They had 15 guys, so Howie was honest about that. They thought we're going to go, the top 15, and Lemon was the last one. Mm-hmm. And that's generally been their history when they have this sort of, and it's usually much smaller. It's usually 4 or 5 cluster of players, and realistic. Some of those 15 are not realistic. Jeremiah Love, yada yada. They knew certain guys wouldn't be there, but of that 15 group, I do believe Freeling was ahead of Lemon, and Lemon was the last one when they went up to go get him in 20. But don't have that locked down. Proctor was certainly above him, but again, Proctor never got close. And that's been his recent history. He's got this, and when there's a drop off, so when you look at it, because I think, one of the things that people don't understand is, well, you don't get the tackles you want, so you just go to Max Ianashore or whomever. No, then you pivot off because you have Mekhi Lemon as a much better ranked player.
See, I know they need offensive line depth. I'm not questioning that, but I'm not as high on you had to take a lineman in the first round, and because this team is now I get it. Like they've taken Dickerson, who was a guy who would have been a first round pick had he not had injuries. Juergens you got in the second round, but they have had guys in the past. I mean, Mailata, for God's sake, they got in the 7th round. That's a oddity story, but they have had guys in the past that have been very successful players that you can get in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round to play offensive line. And if you're just looking for depth right now, and then you can evolve them into the eventual starter, I didn't think you needed to take a guy in the first round that realistically was there to supplant somebody. So that's why I like the fact that they stuck true to the board and went with Lemon.
No, you never have to, and that's what Howie's good at. But, they do, and they've been trying for a couple of years. They do want to set up the heir apparent for Lane Johnson. And this was a year because of the depth, and they liked at least a group of that tackles. But one thing, and Zander can tell you, I said every week, they don't like all 7. I guarantee you that. So everybody, there's 7 offensive tackles that might go in the first round. the Eagles were never going to like all 7. They would have 2 or 3 that they probably liked, that they did like. Blake Miller, who ended up going 17. I don't think they would have taken him. I think they had Lemon over him. But Proctor and Freeling, I think, were ahead of Lemon. Proctor, I know. Freeling, don't, but I get a feeling he was. And then you shipped to the better player, regardless of position. And they got somebody they really liked in the 3rd round with Markel Bell. And guess what? Now nobody will care that he's not going to play. So in a lot of ways, that's better because he can sit and learn behind 2 great tackles.
I didn't hear Bell's. I did hear him say that he thinks he's still growing, but other than that, I haven't really heard. Did anybody ask if he has ever played guard at all?
No.
I mean, the obvious is his size.
Yeah,
Becton's size that would say, hey, they and that was a Stoutland thing. You don't know that they're gonna look at him in that capacity. In this
6'9", man, that's got to be tough for Jalen.
Yeah, well, Howie was asked, and Howie said, no, we're going to play him at tackle. So, I mean, that's the more important.
True.
I'm sure Markel Bell would say he wasn't asked the question. I asked him if he played right tackle before.
Yeah.
Which he has not, but he's been working with Duke Manyweather, and he's been doing is working on right tackle because most teams project him to be on the right side at the NFL level. So
because Becton was like 6'7", this guy's even 2 inches bigger than that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he's even I think he's 6'9 1/4. So, yeah. How he said just tackle. Now you never know down the road, but yeah, that's difficult for Jalen. So he's going to be the heir apparent to Lane Johnson, and it'll be, can Chris Cooper develop him, basically.
Right.
But that'll be a year at least, and I think everybody's fine with it. Now, I'll leave it there with you, Mike, at Mike Gill Show. Make sure you follow Mike on the X platform, YouTube page at Mike Gill Show as well. 97.3 The Sports Bash. A lot of Sixers talk, a lot of Flyers talk, a lot of Phillies talk. Moving on from Topper, Don Mattingly, Donnie Baseball. Boy, Mike, by the way, real quick, my tangent. I had no idea Preston Mattingly was the Phillies GM because I'm not a Phillies guy. And he's not really the GM, obviously, because he's not running things. But
yeah,
I had no idea.
Now the GM is a GM in name, and the president of baseball operations actually runs the roster.
I had no idea. But anyway, I don't think a lot of these guys in the draft class are going to play this year. Significant roles. In fact, I only think one is Mekhi Lemon. And probably Eli Stowers is probably the 3rd tight end because they'll probably use Dallas Goedert and they'll probably use Johnny Munt to set the edge. And Eli Stowers will sort of have that limited role.
I guess, Wisniewski, does he have a shot to compete with? Because I would imagine if they don't want Epps and Makuba to be their starters, they're either going to have to make a trade and bring somebody else in, or does Wisniewski compete for that job?
Well, I think if they don't bring somebody in, sure, he'll compete. But I do think they're going to bring somebody in at some point.
Right. So he would be a long shot guy that has a shot to make an impact.
So I think you got to hammer it home, and Howie tried to hammer it home. Look, this draft includes Jonathan Grenard and Dontavian Wicks as well. They gave up 2 third-round picks, 1 future. They gave up a 5th rounder for Wicks and a 6th rounder. If you add those 2 into it and you have Lemon and Grenard and Wicks, it looks a lot better. Do you think people will add that in, or they'll just say, these guys got to get on the field?
They normally won't add it in, but you're right. I mean, you have a 3-day period to make a flurry of roster additions and improvements. And part of those 3 days included Grenard. And, as you mentioned, the pick that you give up, Wicks is now there. So he does kind of get included into that. And I said in this draft, much like I think we talked about it last week, the Bengals trading for Dexter Lawrence is a better player than whoever they get at 10. So in this particular draft class, you take Grenard for a third-round pick. Now, next year's third-round pick, he's probably better than that player too, but that's supposedly a better draft class. But these drafts are getting interesting because this NIL money, you see in the NBA, only 70 kids entered the draft early this year. 70. You know how many entered the draft early like 5 years ago?
Oh, yeah.
Like 380 kids entered the draft early. And this year, only 71. That is a huge difference in talent now. Yes.
It's a big problem.
So just think about that. In the NFL, if these kids aren't going to the draft early now, there's less players to choose from. So the talent is starting to deplete more. So much like college, I was having a conversation with a parent yesterday. These high school kids are not getting looked at by colleges anymore like they used to be because they can go to the portal and just grab a kid who's already played college football. Why am I going to go to, Atlantic City High School to go find a kid who's green as grass where I can go and get a kid who played at Rutgers for 2 years and just bring him to me or played at a smaller school? That's what's going on in the draft now. These guys are saying, I'm going to stay in college, get paid, and now your portal has less people to choose from. So if you can get established NFL players, you do it.
Yep, I'm with you. It's a big issue, and I'll tell you what, we were talking about him earlier. Jake Rosenberg is taking advantage of that. He was on the ground floor teaching all these colleges how to run their program like a pro system. And going and getting people like free agency, basically, out of the portal.
Yeah. Well, it's happening in basketball. When I saw that yesterday, I actually saw that yesterday. 71 players declared early for the draft. Like 5 years ago, it was 384 players. That's over 300 players. Crazy.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah. College is a mess, man. It is a mess.
Horrible.
I don't know how you fix it either.
We're going to have to do something quick.
I was talking to the parent yesterday, and they're basically saying at this point, it's almost better just to go to the JUCO route, play there for 2 years, and hope you get noticed there, as opposed to,
That's what Markel Bell did.
Yeah. Because at least the colleges are looking at the JUCO ranks, saying these guys are getting college innings under their belt or games under their belt. I'll go there. I have a relationship with the coach, as opposed to, hey, I'm going to go down the road to my local high school and I don't have time for that. I don't have time. I'm looking at
and then you got Keyshawn James Newby as an example. Their 7th round, their last pick. They had 3 7th-round picks, but he
he just transferred again.
Yeah, exactly. He was at Montana Tech for 2 years. Then he went to Idaho for 2 years, and then he finished at New Mexico.
Yeah. Well, what I would say to that pick is last year they took a guy in the
Antoine Powell-Riley. Yeah.
Antoine Powell-Riley, who led the country in sacks. And I don't know what he's doing today, but he did not make it.
He broke up. Not only that, he broke Bruce Smith's Virginia Tech sack records.
Yeah.
I was jacked up on that one, folks. Let me tell you.
Good dude, by the way. He's on Cincinnati, so he's still kicking around.
Oh, that's good.
Still kicking around the league.
I like this. Do you guys watch any UFL?
No.
I've seen a little bit here.
I mean, I watch a little bit here. My buddy is the head coach in Orlando. Our buddy Colin Thompson.
Anthony.
Yeah, and Colin Thompson's the offensive coordinator there. So
I did not know that.
I didn't know Colin was there.
I got to get Colin on the show, man.
Colin is the offensive coordinator, and Anthony is the head coach in Orlando. So I'll tune into some of their games. And but they were talking about how, like, the kid like Pavia, who was a star.
Oh, he's the UFL guy, man.
Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
But, like, if they could get a guy like him, that league, like, if they can try to get some of those name players and get them there, and that's where a guy like Antoine Powell-Riley, you go there and maybe rack up 10.5 sacks in a season and get your name on the radar again. Like a lot of these guys maybe need to go there and get their name on the radar again, as opposed to just like
but guys like Pavia can stay in college for 6 years and make $4 million or whatever.
Well, and he's out. He tried to apply to get another year, and they.
I know he had to leave. That's the only reason he left. If he could have played 10 years, he would have played 10 years.
Well, at some point you wonder. Well, I think they just put some legislation that you can only play five consecutive years. Is it?
Yeah.
But I was going to say, if you're not getting picked up by the professionals and you're getting paid to play in college, you're thinking, well, why can't I just keep playing if no one else is picking me up? Like you know, someone's going to fight for that.
Well, Trinidad Chambliss bought the NCAA to come back to Ole Miss because he'd be taking a pay cut if he went to the
Seton Hall
NFL.
Basketball just had a kid who's been playing in the G League. And I know this has happened a few times. We've had college kids go to the G League and then go back to college. But the Seton Hall just signed a kid who played in the G League, a game that I called. The guy was in the G League, and he went and just declared to go to Seton Hall. I said, how is this happening?
Yeah, it's a mess, man. It is a mess.
Yeah, it is. They need a commissioner or something. Let's see what they do. They got to do something, but we'll see. All right, Mike, we appreciate you joining in, man. Make sure you guys follow him at Mike Gill Show. Listen to him at 97.3 ESPN, and we'll see what happens, Mike. We'll talk to you again next week. Thank you, brother.
All right, guys. See you.
Right,
thanks, bud.
You're joining me right here on Birds 365. Great stuff from Mike Gill. Always appreciate him taking the time to join us today. A lot of good talk today, Johnny Mack, not only in Eagle Land, but also all across the Philadelphia sports. We're like a melting pot of sports discussion right now with the Phillies and the Flyers. And
a lot of stuff going on, man.
Yeah.
You would think the Eagles couldn't gain any footing, but man, they just every day it's something. It's amazing with that team. It is amazing.
They're like the Cowboys with success.
Exactly. And not and without the stupidity as well.
Yeah, obviously, definitely none of that. A well-run team, but boy, they do have a lot of drama surrounding them, John, pretty consistently.
Yeah. Well, part of that is the passion of the fan base. So
Yeah, but I don't remember there being this much. I guess it's always been there.
Well, social media, it's always been. I mean, like, look at Boston Scott. Did you see Boston Scott stuff?
Yeah,
it's like what? And then there's fans attacking him. It's like, leave him alone. He's giving his opinion. Obviously, he's close to the players. Obviously, he's going to take the player mindset.
What did you make of that? Was that an attack on Sirianni? Clearly, right?
I don't know if I call it an attack. I think it was just trying to say that, hey, risk averse offense, He mentioned Brian Johnson, Kevin specifically. They're getting shit on for no reason. And Jalen as well. And who else did he mention?
Jalen, AJ, Kevin Patullo, Brian Johnson he brought up.
Yeah. Like, everybody's got their opinion. That's it.
Yeah, but the way he framed it made it feel like everybody else was in lock, and it's Nick that's Nick. That's the.
Well, then he said Nick's a player's coach, so he went down and he said, who knows what he's trying to say, but there's redundancies all over. But bottom line,
that was attacking him. I thought it was Anthony DeBona, who's not really like a fan. I don't know what he is, honestly. I think he's a reporter.
I don't.
He's not a beat reporter, right? He's not in the room.
No, he's not in the room. So. I don't want to go down that wormhole, believe me.
Yeah, I get it.
But from the standpoint of Boston Scott, he's close to the players, he's close to his teammates, he's close to his coaches. Doesn't necessarily mean he's right. I mean, guys tend to defend their teammates and their coaches, and sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. But I wouldn't go back and forth with him. Who cares? He's got his opinion like everybody else has his opinion. Are they too risk averse? I've been saying that for years. It's a slippery slope, though. They had tremendous success with it. So it's understandable why Nick went down that route. He won a Super Bowl with it. But we had talked, you and I had talked leading up to that. I mean, that's a small margin of error to play that way. And they managed to get it done playing that way. Doesn't mean you're going to get it done every year playing that way. But there's this, if you pound it into the quarterback's head to the degree they had, and then all of a sudden you wake up one day and say, oh, forget that. We're just going to chuck the ball all over the yard. That doesn't make a lot of sense either. So, it's got to be a give and take, and you got to find a nice little place in the bench you can straddle. You got to be a little bit more aggressive, but you can't start turning the ball over like they were the first 4 weeks of 2024.
Yep, good stuff. All right, we got a couple super chats we'll get to. Here's William Robinson. What's up, William? I'm a long-suffering Eagle fan. I'm with the change. AJ and us got our return on our investment. Fact is, he wasn't going to be here forever. A good GM would have traded him this year or the next anyway. So, I agree.
Well, I don't. I mean, it would be nice if everything worked out. He'd still be happy and still be playing. I think he's the best receiver they ever had. So, I mean, but sometimes things don't work out, and everything's got a shelf life. Everybody's renting space. Everybody. One thing, Brandon Graham was here for 15 years, but he's renting space. He's not going to be here in perpetuity.
What's the deal with Brandon Graham? Speaking of him, did he ever announce anything?
No. I don't know what that was.
I think it was an advertisement. Somebody said.
Was it?
Yeah. Which I hate when they do that. I'm like, bro, why? You play it up like we got news to cover, and then it's just an advertisement. I get why they do it because we talk about it, but still.
Obviously they're pretty well stocked on the edge now. With Grenard added to Nolan Smith and Jalix Hunt and Arnold Ebiketie and Joe Tryon. And now you have Uwar Bernard as, who knows? He's going to start at defensive tackle. He might do. But the other kid, Josh Wiru, he's an edge rusher. Don't see a lot of – now he's also capable of moving inside. Brandon playing defensive tackle, but you have Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and Moro Ajomo and Byron Young and Ty Robinson. And, it's like at some point you got to move on. And I think we're at that point.
No doubt. No doubt. Good stuff. William, thanks for the super chat, brother. Appreciate it. Here's C. Zarvin says, go Birds, DHs. All right. Thanks for the super chat today. See Zarvin. I appreciate that one. All right, good stuff. We got BLG coming up. I'm curious to see what BLG's got to say about the draft haul, John. By the way, I am definitely including Jonathan Grenard in the draft.
Well, I hope people realize you should.
I mean, that made the weekend for me. If without that,
that's the biggest move. That's the biggest move they made. But I even think Wicks is part of it as well, and Howie mentioned it because he wants it out there. He wants people to realize it because if you look at all these sites, they're grading the draft picks. They're not grading the draft because, some will be more contextual and they'll say, well, they did trade for Jonathan Grenard, but most people are just looking at the picks. And the picks, I don't see a lot of the picks helping early on. Doesn't mean they can't develop. The Eagles think about it in 3-year increments. They want to see what the player is in year 3. But I don't think, you can bend over backwards and say Stowers will be involved, and he might be. There's at least a possibility. But Markel Bell, Culpa, everything from Markel Bell on down, very unlikely is going to be involved. So you're talking about 2 players with immediate impact. Mekhi Lemon with a high probability of immediate impact. And Eli Stowers, I would say a low probability of immediate impact. And that's it. So in a world of immediacy, in the world of I need everything now, how are people going to be talking about this draft class next year? I don't think it's going to be fair, but I think you're going to have some of that. And that's why I say hey, they got Jonathan Grenard and they got Dontavian Wicks. So essentially, they should have picked up 3 starters with this draft. Just 2 of them happen to be veterans.
Yeah, well, do you agree with Mike Gill that he thinks the defense is better or could be better than it was last year?
I think the potential is.
Yeah,
I think Grenard is a better pass rusher than Phillips. You can debate because he's not a bad run defender, but Phillips adds. He's a tackle for loss machine, Grenard. Phillips, is bigger and adds some different things that Grenard can. Mullen should be better than Adoree, obviously. Jihad, he's got a higher ceiling than Nakobe Dean. Can he get there? And then the one position it's probably going to get a little bit worse unless you bring in somebody else is Reed Blankenship, but he wasn't one of your top players anyway, so you should be able to cobble it together. I think there's a good opportunity to be even better on defense.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and even if you also factor in the dudes who are developing, like what can Jalix Hunt be this year? I think that's a big one. Obviously, Cooper and Quignon, who were all pros last year. I don't know.
I don't know how they get better. Yeah, I don't know how they get better.
Yeah,
that's the unfortunate thing. Like they play at such a high level that they might have a worse season and still be Pro Bowl level. But they were both so good last year.
Do you have any concern on Makuba?
Just the health, not from a playing perspective, but I mean that was the knock. I mean he's 100 and they list him at 186. I don't think he's 186.
You think he's less than that?
Yeah, I think he's 170.
186 isn't that much, John.
No, it isn't. That's what I'm saying. He's a 180-pound guy who plays like he's 220, and when you throw your body around at 100, and let's say they're not lying, and he is 185. When you throw your body around like you're 210, bad things are going to happen. And he got hurt. It wasn't necessarily that because he fractured his fibula. Friendly fire, just part of the game, but. Can he hold up long term with that body type? That I'm concerned about. As far as coverage and what Vic wants, natural coverage player. Think he's a good fit for what Vic likes to do. And he'll only get better because Vic did have some problems. He lined up wrong and he wasn't where he was supposed to be, but he'll just get better with that stuff.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that. It's going to be interesting to see. I do think the defense has a great shot, obviously, with the addition of Jonathan Grenard, and we will see how the rest of it pans out. We got BLG set to join us here. So I've been reading on Bleeding Green Nation ever since the draft weekend. It was a good haul for the Birds. They drafted 8 players, 8 undrafted free agents reported, though, John. Is that not confirmed yet? They got to see about.
The Eagles never announce it till rookie camp. So when it starts on Friday, probably maybe Thursday, but definitely Friday, they will announce it's the guys we know of and some reported by agents. So, Rocco Underwood was reported by the agent. Daquan Wright was Drew Rosenhaus. So those are the guys I know that were reported by agents. So, they're locked in. Howie confirmed when I asked him about Bernard, he confirmed at the post-draft press conference. And then the other guys are pretty locked in. People like Ryan Fowler and who has a lot of sources, Jeremy Fowler, at the college level. So they're pretty much locked in.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, Johnny Mac, good stuff. Appreciate everybody being here today. Hit that like button for us. We got BLG set to join us now. Brandon Lee Goutton joins us here. You can follow him at Brandon Goutton and read all his work at bleedinggreennation.com. BLG, good Wednesday morning to you, my friend. How you doing on this Wednesday morning?
Glad to be here, guys. Excited to have actual draft picks that were made
Yeah.
to talk about.
Yes.
Well, I can't talk about that first, BLG, because we got to talk about now the constant attrition of the Eagles front office. This one I did not see coming. I did know the Eagles expected to lose some executives. Did not expect Alec Halaby to be one of them after 17 years. They already lost Jeff Scott, Bryce Johnston to the Falcons. There's been so many. At some point, does this become a problem? They got a deep bench. They've done a tremendous job. We all know how good Howie is, but boy, this is a lot of attrition year after year almost.
Yeah, more than one thing can be true, as I like to say. I think the Eagles, I'm not like panicking that they're losing these people. I still think they have a really good infrastructure in place, and having Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie at the top of that is what really matters, I think, the most. But at the same time, I think you're doing a disservice to these kind of people like Bryce Johnston, like Alec Halaby, Jeff Scott, so on and so forth, to say that they didn't matter at all. Like, clearly they've made contributions here to a two-time winning Super Bowl organization now. I think the Eagles will miss these people, especially, when you look at Bryce Johnston too, and the Eagles lose Jake Rosenberg a couple of years ago. Right. And it's Bryce Johnston who, comes up to step up in his place. And Bryce Johnston, a really good story, by the way. I mean, a lot of people back in the day were fans, including myself, of eaglescap.com. And a really cool journey for him. So I'm happy for these people too. I think they earned these opportunities, but ultimately it is a loss for the Eagles.
Well, I think Alex started at Football Outsiders way back 17, 18 years ago.
Is that right? With like Aaron Schatz in them?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, you get the foot in the door as an intern, and all of a sudden you start growing, and 17 years later you're an assistant GM and leaving the Philadelphia Eagles. But good guy, Alec Halaby. Wish him luck, and we'll keep a keen eye on what his next move will be. You mentioned the draft. A lot of love with the draft. My one concern, and I'm trying to pound home, you got to add Jonathan Grenard, Dontavian Wicks to this draft, because I don't think you're going to see a lot of immediate impact outside of Mekhi Lemon in this draft. Agree or disagree?
I think that's fair to say. I don't know what Eli Stowers' role exactly is going to be here in year one. With Dallas Goedert ahead of him, obviously you expect that Dallas Goedert could be in a position where he might have to miss time at some point, like he usually does. So we'll see on that one. But yeah, in terms of the instant impact, it's looking like Mekhi Lemon in terms of the rookies, and that's fine. Like, you're not drafting players just for the 2026 season. At least you shouldn't be. It's not the ideal goal. If you get contributions as a rookie, great. That's good. Obviously, Cooper DeJean and Quinton Mitchell were big factors in 2024, but that's more the exception than the norm. You're not really expecting that every single year. So I think the Grenard addition was a great addition by the Eagles. I'm a big fan of that one. I thought that was a really big move. And then I like the Wicks pickup as well. So I absolutely think it's fair to include those.
What were your big picture takeaways of just the way like the whole draft went? Some people thought it was a sign of the changing offense. BLG, you get Lemon, you get Stowers, who's really a glorified receiver. I mean, he's not a blocking tight end at all. What were your big picture takeaways on what it told you about the Eagles moving forward this draft class?
Well, Howie Roseman told us what he was going to do in terms of he wanted to get cheaper and younger on offense. And that's exactly what he's aiming to do here when they draft a wide receiver, a tight end, and then an offensive tackle, and then even a quarterback with their first 4 picks there. So, and a guard as well for some more depth. So, he set out to do that. I think ideally, in a perfect world, realistically, they would have liked to get an offensive tackle earlier. I don't think that opportunity really presented itself to them, and also just not expecting to get the value at wide receiver that they did. But ultimately, yeah, it's about getting this offense cheaper, younger. And I also think it's about a potential different stylistic approach when you look at how Mekhi Lemon wins, and it's over the middle of the field, and Eli Stowers as well. It seems like the Eagles are trying to get more to a point where they're challenging Jalen Hurts, and certainly it's not that he can't throw over the middle of the field, but he hasn't done it with frequency, and I think they want him to do it with some more frequency.
Is that your take on it? That they're trying to almost point him in that direction? Because I looked at it the opposite, to be honest, after the draft, because we all had this going in, and we said, well, what is Howie going to do? Is he going to change his philosophy? And I looked at the offensive linemen, and they looked like two big, powerful guys, Markel Bell, Micah Morris. Now they're lesser picks, but if I were to say, oh, wide zone stretch, I would say these are more Stoutland guys. And he had said before the draft, and we have a good about, and regardless of scheme, he said, basically paraphrasing, to the point of, hey, we don't know where the coordinators are going to be a year or two from now. We're just going to draft good players. I kind of look at Lemon and Stowers more as circumstance than pushing Jalen Hurts in a certain direction. I mean, I think they would have wanted Caden Proctor. Wasn't in their ecosphere. He was the 15th player of 15. They went up and got him, sort of his mentality. Eli Stowers, BLG, I kind of look at Shanahan, it's George Kittle. It's, if you look at Matt LaFleur, it's Tucker Kraft. If you look, it's more of the well-rounded tight ends who can set the edge for that wide zone. I think he saw Eli Stowers. Nope, this is the best player. I thought Howie was just best player on my board guy over the weekend.
Yeah, I don't think they reached on someone that, could have been like a better talent just for the sake of, going stylistically. I don't think that's what they did. I don't think that's what Howie Roseman believes in. And I agree with him on that. I think that's, the way to go about it. And yeah, like to your point, you don't know if Sean Mannion's going to be here for good or for worse. For this, if he does a great job, gets hired as a head coach, like we've seen here, or if things don't go so well, then could be one and done. So yeah, you don't just base your draft strategy around that. But I do think because of the players they ultimately selected, and especially in the case of Mekhi Lemon, that when you're looking at how he's had success in college, and we'll see how he translates to the league, but I do think it's gonna force Jalen to do some of that more over the middle passing.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what they end up doing. It almost feels to me, BLJ, I don't know if you agree or not, but it almost feels like instead of building the scheme around the players that they have, like they've done in the past, that they want a scheme and they're going to get the players that fit that scheme. Now, we'll see if it unfolds that way. Hasn't been that way in the past, but we will see if they go more to that. BLG, day 3, what'd you make of the picks in day 3, man? They had Cole Payton, the quarterback. They had Micah Morris, the guard out of Georgia. And then obviously those 3 semi-exciting picks on in round number 7 with Uar Bernard, and I think there's some excitement on Wisniewski as well. What did you make of day 3 for the Birds?
Yeah, I like how that went. I like the basically lottery tickets, for better or worse, that they took there. I thought they were going to draft a quarterback. I've been saying that for a while. I don't know. There's a lot of talk. Oh, Taysom Hill. Is Cole Payton going to fit in that role? I mean, I'm not going to rule it out. Like, maybe they have a vision for him. It's just a matter of, I don't think that guy's going to be active on game day, because typically they only have 2 quarterbacks active, and then they have the third quarterback. And, for him to even be the third quarterback, it's going to take presumably maybe Tanner McKee getting traded. So we'll see on that front. But regardless, I like taking the chance on a developmental quarterback there, trying to get cheaper potentially at quarterback when it comes to a backup. The other dart throws they took, why not add some more offensive line depth? Micah Morris is a guy who has kind of like the size and some of the athleticism of a guy who would go higher than he did in the draft. So you take a chance on him there. Cole Wisniewski, the fact that Howie Roseman invoked Reed Blankenship's name and did caution, in fairness to himself.
Boy, he was really nice with Reed.
Yes.
It's like, why didn't you sign him, dude?
I know, right? Well, because it's all about the money, right? And why not? If you like Reed, but if you can get someone who's a lot cheaper and they feel like they can give you something approaching that, which again, I think it's not fair to expect Cole Wisniewski to be Blankenship. Like that's a high bar to clear, but they clearly see something where it's a mold that they feel like they might be able to attain at least some point in time.
Well, there's also opportunity. Like, when you talk about Markel Bell, he's got no opportunity barring, massive injuries. Cole Payton's got no opportunity. Michael Morris has no opportunity. And Keyshawn James Newby has no opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So the one guy where you could even see a path to playing time is Cole Wisniewski.
Mm-hmm.
And that might shut down. He might go get a veteran safety, and that will stop. I should have mentioned Cole Payton as well when I was talking about scheme. Like, Garrett Nussmeier was there. Now, there could have been health concerns, obviously, all the way fell. The Eagles might have had a red flag. We don't know that. But even guys like Luke Altmaier, a lot of Illinois, more of a point guard style quarterback that you would think of with the Kyle Shanahan off. And they take the left-handed Taysom Hill.
Mm-hmm.
It's like best player. Yeah, I thought it was interesting the way Howie went about it. But with Cole Payton, I agree with you. I'm like, and I love Taysom Hill. I love him as a player, but it bothers the shit. Like, why are you taking your quarterback off the field or putting him out to I hate that. It's like, it's weird. So I like the player, but I don't like the thought process of having a package for a Cole Payton type player, and you're taking either Jalen Hurts off the field or putting him out wide, and you're playing 10 on 11. I don't like that. Why do people love that, BLG?
Well, it was always a gift in my mind. Like if the team playing the Saints, they took it's a gift to them when the Saints were taking Drew Brees off the field.
Exactly.
Hall of Fame quarterback. Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can do some fun stuff with him, maybe as a tight end or whatever, but yeah, it's about it.
Yeah.
Does it make you feel like you should better about trading Tanner McKee potentially? I was like the opposite. I'm like, pay Tanner McKee to be the backup. Now I know that that's probably unlikely, but it doesn't make me feel any better about moving on from McKee or Dalton for that matter. How did you see that perspective or that thought process?
Yeah, I still think it would be ideal to get a nice offer for him, but you're not just trading him just to trade him. So I think, it's possible, there's an injury or some team gets kind of disillusioned about their quarterback situation later in the summer. And if you reach that point in time and you get a strong offer, let's say a third round pick or a second round pick, something, a third that maybe can become a second, some kind of strong offer, then I'm willing to kind of deal McKee at that point because he's probably only going to be around for this year. You move Dalton up to the number 2, and then you have Payton developing there. Doesn't make me feel, super secure in the position, but it's more about, to me, just the offer you would get for McKee.
All right. With all due respect to Mekhi Lemon, who I thought was a good pick, the most impactful move on the weekend was Jonathan Grenard. Boy, I mean, this guy is a home run. Minnesota's a mess. They don't have a GM. They got salary cap issues. He's a great pass rusher, great all-around player. And we just met him. He's an obvious leader, was a team captain there. Just carries himself like a professional. Why do people keep giving good players to Howie Roseman? 2 third round, give a third round pick. I don't care. I love this move, BLG, and I think this defense is going to be better this year than it was last year.
I think that's possible. I'd certainly have confidence in the defense, but when it comes to Grenard specifically, I think he's one of the most underrated players in the NFL because you look at all these pass rushers that he's nearby in terms of, the money he's getting, and it's guys who have kind of just been like those players or, these star names, like Will Anderson, Micah Parsons, Aiden Hutchinson, TJ Watt, Daniil Hunter, Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, Nick Bosa, and so on and so forth. It's guys that kind of have just always been that alpha pass rusher. And it took Grenard a little bit of time, kind of to get to that point in the NFL relative to those guys. But he's there. I mean, he was second in pressures in the NFL in 2024. And then even last year, the sack production wasn't there, but he was still one of the top players in the league in terms of pressure percentage and a lot of those kind of metrics. Also, by the way, really good against the run. also has good coverage numbers. It's not something you're going to do all game long, but it's something he has the ability, athleticism to do, which is something, Vic Fangio is going to utilize at some point in time. So, I just think there are so many boxes that he checks off, and you talked about it, John, too. Just the culture addition, he seems like, the personality. I mean, this is like a no-brainer kind of move for me. I think it was a really good pickup.
What did you think of the compensation they sent?
I think it's like fair. I don't think it's like, oh my gosh, they totally bamboozled the Vikings, considering that it's 2/3. You also are paying him. It's not like free. Like that's a
right.
But I think it's fair. I think it's a totally reasonably fair. If anything, I think it skews towards being the bargain, but I think it's a totally fair price to pay. And I also think, John, you mentioned it there, Vikings don't have a GM. Like, you should absolutely be looking to make trades with the team that doesn't even have a GM.
Yeah. And they took one pick, Jacoby Thomas, a safety from Miami. Now, I don't know a lot about him, but I'm going to bet Jonathan Grenard has a bigger impact. And they'll get another third-round pick. I thought they'd have to give up 54 going in, so I'm like,
yeah.
To me, it's a home run of a deal, and we'll see how it shakes out. But I think that was by far their most impactful move on draft weekend, and I think it's going to be a home run for the organization. What'd you think about the rest of the NFC East and their drafts, BLG?
Yeah, I think the most teams, I think they all did a pretty good job for the most part. I think that's helped by the fact they were all not
all
good
very
last year.
all very high.
So they had a lot of high picks, and then in the case of the Giants and the Cowboys, they had the extra pick, the extra first-round pick. So you have to factor that in. But I think it was a pretty good draft class for those teams. Cowboys getting Caleb Downs. I don't think any Eagles fan really enjoys seeing that. Malachi Lawrence pick is an interesting one. Kind of didn't really expect that. The Giants get the two picks early on with Reese and the tackle that they took. The Commanders didn't have as many draft picks with all the trades they've made, but still get Sonny Styles, who I think is a really nice fit for their defense there when you're maybe losing Bobby Wagner. So I don't think any of them really super botched the draft, which is not the best thing for the Eagles.
Do you
Good.
Just as a quick follow-up, because I'm of the mindset that you're right, they're all picking high, and I think Caleb Downs, I gave the Cowboy, that's my best pick of the draft because I love the player. Now Malachi Lawrence, I think, was a little bit of a reach, but I worry about the Giants more, and that's strange because they've been so bad for so long, but I think John Harbaugh's there and they're going to start making good decisions. Whereas Dallas, they start from a better position. They have more talent, but Jerry Jones is going to derail that. And Washington, I haven't been impressed by Adam Peters. So I kind of start worrying about the Giants more. But overall, I think the Eagles have such an advantage in the front office. I think it's going to stay Eagles and everybody else, at least in the short term. Do you think anybody's closing the gap?
I think the Cowboys are absolutely. And look, I don't buy them when it comes to the postseason. I'm not giving them the benefit of the doubt when it comes to the time.
They got to earn that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But when it comes to being able to be competitive and maybe win the NFC East, absolutely. We've seen them do that. And look, their defense was horrendous last year. And I just think that between getting Christian Parker and adding some of the players that they have, I don't know that it's going to be an elite defense, but I am confident that it's getting to a point where it'll be at least not the total disaster that it was last year. And if you combine that with an offense that I think is still going to be really strong for them, assuming nothing
a good quarterback, even though Eagles fans hate when I say it. But
they get so mad at me when I say that.
When it comes to the postseason again, he's definitely not come up big in the big spots, kind of like an anti-Jalen Hurts in that way in some of the biggest games, but certainly can get them to the playoffs for sure. I agree. But I don't think the offense is really going to fall off unless, we'll see what happens with Pickens. If something happens weird there, I reserve the right to change my mind maybe.
Yeah,
but I still think that's going to be a really potent offense, and then you get the defense better. And I think that's a team that's going to really threaten the Eagles for the NFC East lead.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting year. BLJ, looking at the Eagles' undrafted free agents, any of them excite you? Somebody gave me a stat. I don't know. I don't want to be inaccurate with it, but something above 25% of the league is made up of like undrafted guys or something along those lines.
That was
Roster.
Rick Saratella. Yeah, there's a lot of undrafted.
Yeah, right. That's who it was, Rick, yesterday. What'd you make of the Eagles' undrafted class? Obviously, a lot of hype on Deontay Lawson, a 3-year starter at Alabama. Daquan Wright, a big catch tight end guy out of Ole Miss, and then the guard out of Alabama, and then corner out of Ole Miss, and then a couple others. What'd you make of the Eagles' undrafted class, and do any names excite you there?
Yeah, I really like Daquan Wright. I'm really can't wait to watch this guy. In
he's going to be a guy. It's always the tall pass catchers that everybody falls in love with at rookie camp and OTAs.
He just looks like a guy, when people talk about running through a brick wall, like he looks like he wants to run through an actual brick wall, not just like a metaphorical.
Well, we had somebody in the chat said he runs like Derrick Henry, right?
John had to say, hey, he's an undrafted free agent. Let's not compare him to Derrick Henry.
Well, he's going to have to watch out for Cooper G to practice then.
Yeah,
that's true. Well, I'm going to guarantee the best. I can't guarantee it because they might bring in another one, but the one who with the best, maybe beyond Mekhi Lemon, the best opportunity to contribute, Rocco Underwood.
Sure.
Long snapper, Florida.
The only one on the roster.
The opportunity. He's the only one. He's going to contribute unless he shits the bed and they bring in somebody else.
That's right.
Rocco Underwood. So that's a name to keep an eye on because you need a long snapper. And that's potential. Unfortunately for these undrafted guys, the Eagles are very deep and there's not a lot of opportunity like Daquan Wright. They got a lot of tight ends. I mean, can he replace EJ Jenkins on the practice squad? Sure.
Mm-hmm.
If you can get him through waivers. Guy like Deontay Lawson, who's he going to beat out? It's really difficult. So, but that's a good thing. If you have a lot of undrafted players making your team, you're probably not. I remember, I think in last year was the Vikings had 7 undrafted free agents make the team. That is not a good sign, people. That is not a good sign.
That's too many. Maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah. And maybe there will be a Reed Blankenship long term. Unlikely, but it's always fun to see them. And big time players like Lawson started a lot of games at Alabama. So who knows with some of those guys, but what's your favorite day 3 pick? Just your personal favorite.
Has to be Bernard, just from the standpoint of like it's all upside. There's no downside. If he doesn't work out, no one cares. It was one of the final picks in the draft. It's literally just like you get to think about what if this works.
Can I tell you, I was disgusted at myself at Jefferson Health Training Complex because the minute I found out about Uar Bernard and I read about him, and I said, "Oh, the Eagles are drafting this guy."
100%.
And then I forgot about it, BLG. And I'm sitting there on day 3. We just want to get the hell out of there because, it's getting, and Howie trades down in the 6th round. I go, are you kidding me? You told us this draft stinks. And you're getting 2 picks in the 7th round. It disgusted me. And I forgot about Bernard. And I said, and the minute the first question I asked him was about Bernard, right? Should target. Who else would target a 7th round pick? And that's what Howie did to get Uar Bernard.
Absolutely. It's exciting. It's crazy. Like, I don't think we can properly appreciate just how much of a freak athlete he is. Like when you look at those comparisons to Myles Garrett, and obviously he's nothing close as the football player, but just some of the physical ability. It's insane. It's insane.
It's
ridiculous. It's funny to me too, from a standpoint of like, I think the Eagles make that pick in part because like they've earned the Howie Roseman has earned the equity to be able to do that. Like if you're one of these GMs on the hot seat, I don't think you can kind of get away with like taking,
no way.
And also you're not even going to be around if that guy turns into something. So obviously Howie has the security to be able to do that.
All right, Bill, I'll give you what I gave Rick yesterday, Rick Saratella. In the next 3 seasons for the Eagles, over under a half a game that Bernard will appear in a regular season game on the field in whatever role. Will he reach the field in the next 3 years?
I think 3, yes. I think 3 is I think that third year is kind of going to be the point.
Right.
So it's a good over under by you, but I think it's going to be that third year. Because if you go back to Jordan Mailata, he was 2018, right? And then what was it?
And it was only because of an injury, really.
Yeah, to 2020, right? Yeah. So it was his third year. So I think that's what you're kind of looking at there.
Yeah. Well, why DT? They got him at DT. I'm like, dude, I'm with you. Miles Garrett, put him on the edge. Let him go get a quarterback.
Oh, he's too big. He's like 305.
Yeah,
but he might be able to.
How much does Garrett weigh? Miles Garrett,
like 275-ish.
275.
He looks like he's, but.
Yeah, I don't think they're like married to keeping him at a certain position. No, I think they're just gonna see what works, what can work, or what doesn't work.
But it's interesting. Did you see Jordan Mailata and Stout on Kelsey's podcast? I don't want to get into Stout and stuff. We can talk about that next week. But Jordan was talking about, and he specifically brought up Nate Herbig saying, trying to. I think a lot of people don't know that, like, the Eagles were on the precipice of pulling the plug and saying this isn't going to work. Mm-hmm. And I remember talking to Stoutland in 2020. For whatever reason, we got him close to when Mailata was going to be forced in the San Francisco game. And we all thought it was going to be a disaster because Nick Bosa's out there. And I remember somebody specifically asking Stoutland, do you think he's ready? And he's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Stout's very honest. He's like, I have no idea. I hope so, but I have no idea. And they just threw him in the deep end of the pool and he played. It was unbelievable. That story is just, there's going to be books written about it. It is unbelievable. And that's why I kind of go the opposite way. Mm-hmm. I'm rooting for him, but it's so against the odds.
Yeah.
I would say probably not going to work out with the UR.
Absolutely. That is the most likely scenario by
far. But I like what you said, BLG. Like, nobody's going to blink if it doesn't work,
Yeah. Take a chance. Why not?
Oh, I love the chance. Yeah. I love the story. Yeah. I'm going to be thrilled to see him and watch it. And the same thing. I mean, you remember at practices about how Joe Osman used to destroy Jordan. Just an amazing story. I can't, because we're in it and he's turned into such a good player. And I think people forget. It's like
I think in the future, John, that will age very well for Jordan Mailata, the story of Mailata. BLG, last question for me. I know we mentioned him a little earlier, but Micah Morris, I thought that was an interesting pick. This huge Georgia guard who played, I think, in 19 games as a guard for them at both right and left guard. Mm-hmm. He's got this crazy athleticism profile, apparently just a little bit overweight. What'd you make of that pick? I thought that was a guy who maybe could find himself on the field at some point in the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's interesting to see he fell that far just because of the profile you're talking about. I was reading something from ESPN leading up to the draft. I think Jeremy Fowler put this out on some information on some of the more polarizing prospects in the draft. By the way, Makai Lemon was on here as well as Micah Morris. And there's certainly some questions, I think, about maybe the work ethic that was included in there. So, he fell for a reason, clearly. So you have to kind of wonder what that reason is. But, if that's overblown or he, comes to Philadelphia and the coaching's good and he locks in the support system around him, it's possible. He has a pathway here to being developed just from the tool perspective, being able to develop into a starter. Entirely possible. He also just doesn't even make the roster as a rookie just because of where he was taken.
This is where I missed out, man.
So
you just feel like he's going to develop these guys. We don't know. I'm not saying Cooper can't. We just don't know. So it's a big difference. But all right, John, you got any more there?
Not just the Eagles ultimately got their Georgia and Alabama players. Had to go undrafted route, but they got them with Alabama. But they got Georgia and Alabama, and it's worked out for them. So who knows? They love Kirby Smart's program. Big, strong guy. I know that with Micah Morris, but we're in uncharted territory with Chris Cooper developmental. We don't know. So that's part of it as well. At Brandon Goutton on X, bleedinggreennation.com. Make sure you read BLG and the staff. They do a tremendous job over there. And we'll talk to you next week, buddy.
All right. Sounds good, guys.
Thanks, BLG. There's BLG joining us right here on Birds 365. Great show today. Always good to talk to BLG and Mike Gill here on our Wednesday edition of the program, fresh off the NFL draft. Some good takeaways there from Brandon Lee Goutton. Always good talking to him and Mike Gill. But, John, a lot of excitement in the air after these new additions to the Philadelphia Eagles. I come away from it thinking the West Coast offense is on the way. For how long, I don't know. Like you said, at what point do they pull the plug and default back? But I think it's coming, Johnny Mac. I think it's coming.
I don't think it's coming. Well, the true West Coast. First of all, First of all, the true West Coast offense doesn't exist any longer. I would say that, number one. Then you're talking about Bill Walsh, and they just don't have the time to teach that. So I get what you're saying. It's more the Shanahan, the McVay style, which they're going to try to do. But again, Eli Stowers has nothing to do with that offense. Like, to me, it's the exact opposite. It's like, no, you're looking for George Kittle. You're looking for Tucker Kraft. That's who you're looking for.
Yeah, right.
So I kind of look at it
to me like a replacement for AJ Brown more than he is a tight end.
Maybe it is, if you want to look at it out of the box, to me, that was what stood out. And I wrote on Sports Illustrated, to me, Howie was like, no, this ain't a scheme draft. I'm just taking the guys who I think are the best players at this position, at this time of position in the draft. And he did that consistently because Cole Payton ain't a fit for the West Coast offense or what people think the West Coast offense is. That's for damn sure. Now, that's a 5th round pick, so it doesn't matter as much. And I thought the offensive lineman, Markel Bell and Micah Morris, are more fits for the Jeff Stoutland philosophy, better if you wanted to gauge it. I was the opposite. At first, I thought Makai Lemon, I'm like, all right, maybe they're forcing him to go over the middle. But after hearing Howie talk, it was a matter of we had 15 guys and he was the last one. And I'll tell you what, he was very honest this draft cycle. Very honest.
You said that early too.
Yeah. And I think he thought he was the best player at that time, and he was the last one, and they weren't going to get him at 23, and they went up and got him. I think that was Occam's razor. What I
Do you think Howie lost some leverage in the AJ Brown trade by drafting Makai Lemon in round 1?
No, because I think it's already done.
Like a handshake deal type thing?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's already.
I think that could be likely. You know what I don't think is likely, which I see a lot of people say? That the Patriots drafted a player.
No. That's not what I'm saying. I saw that we got that question yesterday. Yeah.
Draft a player, fly him to New England, sign him to a contract, and then trade him a couple of weeks later for, in June.
Yeah. It's going to be, even I do it. It's going to be what Schefter said, which I said 2 weeks before, but future 1st round pick.
2028, far out there, J-Mac.
Hey, well, you got to go far out to get the 1st round. You want the 1st round pick, you got to go far out. And he can do it because Howie's got the time to do it. He's going to take that pick. Other GMs know that, poor Rob Brzezinski, he's not going to be there next week.
All right.
So a lot of GMs, there's a few, like I said, John Snyder, Les Snead, there's a few who are on solid footing, but the vast majority of GMs are like, you start talking about 2028 1st round picks, they're like, why do I give a shit? I'm probably not even going to be here.
John, final question for you. You said early and often this offseason that to you, it's about fixing 1st down.
Yep.
Right.
Still is.
And do you think they've addressed that? Do you think they've done enough to fix first down, or is it a hopium on the Medellin
Yeah,
stem
well, that's what I
cell?
said. The most important addition, in my opinion, to the Philadelphia Eagles is on the field is Jonathan Grenard. But the real most important addition is the Medellin stem cells.
Yeah, well, that's not a very good. That doesn't make me feel very good, John. I won't lie to you.
If the offensive line is fixed, they're going to fix first down, and they're going to be not an explosive, but they're going to be a good, effective, efficient offense like they were in 2024. Not going to be explosive because it's just not how they play. But if they and probably not quite as good in the running game because you're not going to have a 2,000-yard season, historic season. You're not going to break the record you set. So it won't be at that level. But if you can get to Saquon Barkley to 1,600 yards and you fix first down, everything else falls into place.
All right, Johnny Mac, your final thought here on a Wednesday edition. I thought Mike Gill and BLG were great. A lot happening in all of Philadelphia sports.
Yeah, how about
right
that?
now.
And we didn't even get to 50-year options, but those are, with BLG, but those were not.
Oh, yeah, sure. I forgot to ask him. We got them with you, though. We got your take.
Yeah, they're done. I mean, there was no decision this time. I mean, they were obviously going to use them both. Just a matter of Nolan Smith long-term future, which I think isn't great. I think, Alex Hunt is more likely to surpass him. And then, some of the off the field stuff, the Stoutland question, which we talked about, the GPS, the litmus test, wherever that is so perfect. And I did write that yesterday on Sports Illustrated. And you saw if you didn't like Jalen, you went Jalen. If you didn't like Patullo, you went Patullo. If you didn't,
exactly.
It was amazingly effective. I don't know if Jeff was going for that. I'm sure.
You know what I didn't like about it? I didn't like that. I felt like Jeff himself skated away from any accountability. Like, I agree with you. It's everything. But Jeff, you're in that. The first thing, we didn't have a good year. I didn't have a great year. The offensive line didn't have a great year. The coaching didn't have a great year. Jalen, I just didn't like that. I felt like he was pointing the finger at others, whoever you determined it was, while kind of skating by himself.
Well, he didn't say but he did say execution, which is part, certainly the players, but it's part his purview as well, which is he understands. So. I mean, when you see that word, it's sort of a form of coaching accountability because that's what they're talking about.
This is interesting. A free plug for a company right now. We're talking about Jeff Stoutland, John. I look out, I got my window right next to me. There is a truck right outside my window as we speak. Stouts Transportation right outside my window.
Stouts already moved on.
There you go, man. Stouts Transportation. I don't know how that happened. He's right next to my window as we talk about Jeff Stoutland. But all right, John, your final thought here on a Wednesday edition.
Go Flyers, go Sixers. I still think the Flyers have a better chance to get to round 2, but it's nice to have relevant winter sports teams in the spring. Hasn't been the case.
This is the rare case where I guess all of them are. Well, no, they're not all playing, but the Eagles are never. It never feels like the Eagles aren't playing. I mean, they're not playing, but it never feels like they're over.
Well, even at today, where the Phillies fire the manager, they're obviously the top story. The Sixers saved their season for at least 48 hours. And
Flyers win tonight, or they're cooked.
Flyers, they need to win tonight. They don't want to go.
They're not winning Game 7 in Pittsburgh if they lose.
So, everybody's relevant, and the Eagles still find a way. Alec Alby, that's not what they wanted, but they still find a way to stay in the headlines, even with all that going on.
Yes, they do. For better or for worse. Johnny Mac, great show today, my friend. I will catch up with you. Thanks for doing it. We'll catch up with you later. Thank you, brother.
All right. Thanks, all.
All right, thanks, Jim Mac. There's Johnny Mac. John McMullen joining us right here on Birds 365. Appreciate all you guys tuning in today. We had Mike Gill. We had Brandon Lee Goutton. Both great segments with both of our two guests today. No time on Zander time today. I got to get in the car, and I got to get the heck out of here. You guys know, I think I told you all, I will not be on the show tomorrow or Friday. All right, so I will not be here tomorrow or Friday. I actually am going. You guys will get a kick out of this. I actually am going to the land of Diana Rossini. I am heading out to Arizona. I'm going for my bachelor party. So my brother got a trip out there. I'm going to a track. All right, we're going to a racing school. I think we're golfing. We're doing a bunch of other shit. So it's exciting. It's exciting. I'm looking forward to going to the track. That's what I'm most excited for. So we're going to the track. I think we're doing ATVs. We're doing some of that Arizona stuff. I've never been to Arizona, so it's one of these states I haven't been to. I've been to many other places, but not Arizona. So we will see what happens. All right, we will see what happens. Rich just shows back up and he's already chirping. He says, "You've been eating them Humpty dumplings too much." You think so? Do I look fat? I better lose some pounds. I better get back in the gym, man. I better get back. Hot as F. Actually, beautiful. That's what I've heard. Enjoy, Tony. Thank you, brother. Enjoy it. Thank you, guys. So we'll do that, and I'll be back for you guys on Monday. I'll still be working, but I will not be on the shows. All right, I got to get some work done. You know, you're never off the clock. Never off the clock, folks. All right, this is life, and I love it. But you're in Scottsdale. I think that might be where I'm going. I don't even know where I'm going, dude. I'm not gonna lie. It's one of those things. My brother told us he's like, I booked us this. Well, this is when our flight is. Our flight's like 5:30 in the morning tomorrow. So I will not be on Birds 365. My pops, Krause, will be filling in for me. We will still have a show, obviously. So let me look up. I think I might be Scottsdale. That might be where it is. Where's Chandler, Arizona? Where is Chandler? Anybody know? Is that near Scottsdale? Oh, no, that's near Phoenix. Yeah, I don't know where we're going, honestly. Scottsdale is there. Yeah, I don't know where it is. So that's where the track is. I have no idea where we're actually staying. Let me look at my flight. Where the heck am I flying into? I'm flying into Phoenix. Yeah, I'm flying into Phoenix. So I don't know. We'll see. Somewhere around that area. All right. I don't know where, but somewhere around that area. So, all right, guys. Appreciate all you guys for doing it. Hit the like button. I got to get in the car and get the heck out of here. Get my shit packed. And I'll be on Cilio later today. I'll be doing everything today. And then tomorrow you'll get Krause. And Friday you'll get Krause. And then I'll be back by Monday. So appreciate all you guys doing it. Hit the like button. I will see you guys next time. Thanks, everybody.
EAGLES Eagles.